Welcome to a Tuesday edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. It's Tuesday, November 14th. Thanks so much for being with us. My name is Madeline Burke, alongside Howard Cross, at Madeline Burke, at Howard Cross 87. The phone number here is 201-939-4513, or you can find us on Twitter, on X, at #GiantsChat. And as a reminder, you can find the archive of this show and our entire podcast network on the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, and at giants.com/podcast.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. It's Tuesday, friends. We got a little bit of a late start today, of course, because on Tuesdays we film some TV segments in the studio, and then John and Sean have their little segment, so it bumps right up against us. So apologies to all listening live for the delay here today. But you know what? We're getting going. We're getting started.
Absolutely.
And it's a Tuesday news day. Howard Cross, how are you feeling?
Tired. I'm still suffering from jet lag from the trip. I got home at 1:30 in the morning. I'm like, I'll just go get in bed and go to sleep. And the sun came up, and I was still sitting there looking, and I wasn't on my phone.
Oh, that's breaking news.
That's breaking news. I was just
you're on your phone most of this show, so
I'm looking for news. So it just was. I just didn't really recover like I thought I would.
And then you had the audacity to go work out, and now you can't even drink water.
I can't get the
can't
water
lift your
to
water
my
bottle.
mouth. I am so old.
This is what happens, friends. You spend a couple years away from the game, and now one day in the gym, and all of a sudden, this water bottle feels heavy.
Look. That's it.
That's
it's not getting any closer. I need a long straw.
You're doing great. You're doing amazing. You know what? This is the embodiment of the struggle that we are all feeling, I think, so far this week. It was a tough one this weekend in Dallas.
It was. I thought it was tough. I thought that, the defense did a good job in the very first few plays, stopping them on the 1 foot line or so, which was bad for the offense. But then, they stopped them again, had a punt. And after that, it was just like they were like looking for, that guy is not a starter. Let me see if he can cover. And it went on from there.
Yeah. In a game like that, too, it felt like Dallas, Dak walks away with 404 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and doesn't even play the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
Cooper Rush comes in. They're still airing it out. When they're throwing like that, it felt like almost like a college football game when a team is trying to not just win, but win decisively and make it a statement.
That's between Dallas and Giants.
And I'm not saying that as a criticism. I'm saying that as an observation.
No, it's Dallas and Giants. Like, your job, you're paid professionals. Your job is to stop us. If you can't stop us, then we're going to keep scoring. And I don't think they were doing something necessarily like trying to run the score up, so to speak. I just think they would just continue to play football. When you put your second and third team guys in and you're still having success, what do you do? Start running the ball into the middle every time into a cloud of dust? No, because somebody can get hurt. Continue to run your offense.
Exactly. Keep running the offense.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? We're turning the page now because week 11, we've got another division opponent at Washington. 3 straight road games. This one's a little bit closer, though. Just a train ride away to Washington.
Right.
How are you feeling about this travel?
I'm got mixed emotions because I will be flying out to ND to see my son. It'll be senior day. And he's actually going to stay an extra year, which is funny, but that is awesome. But he is going to walk on senior day. I'm going to, he asked me to come and join him on the field to congratulate him. The game starts at 3:30.
Wow.
So I got to leave right around halftime or so, get in the car, drive back to Chicago, get on a plane to get to Washington. So my travel is going to be rough this weekend.
Brutal. And breaking news, you heard it here first, perhaps, that Howard Cross is staying at Notre Dame for another year.
There he is.
There it is.
Master's degree coming.
Look at that. Happy for him. Happy for the young Cross.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? You'll be making your way out to Washington, much like the rest of this Giants team. This is a team that they just saw in week 7. It's week 11 now, so 4 games ago.
Absolutely.
The way that Washington has been playing, though, since week 7 feels a little bit different. Howell is the most sacked quarterback in the NFL, but in the last 3 weeks, only been sacked 7 times.
Okay.
Their offense has been, putting up at least 356 yards and has put up 76 points over the last 3 weeks. Their offense has been clicking. But you look at the way these two teams matched up. Number one, the Giants going against Washington seems like such a matchup in which the Giants have had the number of this team. They've won the last 2. Week 7, Giants had 6 sacks and an interception in that game. The defense was really coming together.
Yep.
yes, the Giants have lost Leonard Williams since then, but yes, the Commanders have also lost Chase Young and Montez Sweat since then.
Mm-hmm.
How different do you think that this game is going to look than Week 7, or do you think it's going to be kind of one of those pick up where you left off? This is the matchup.
I think it's going to be a very interesting game because I think that, if the Giants, even though I don't know where Trayvon's going to be by that time, Thibodeau, if he's
Kayvon.
I keep calling him Trayvon.
I don't know why.
Kayvon, I like Trayvon. I think it's a better name.
Well, that's not his name.
But I guess I get the K and the T mixed up. Anyway.
Yeah, both of them are his initials.
Thibodeau.
Yeah.
But I think that if he is back and he really enjoys playing against the Washington football team or the Commanders or whatever they're called these days, he plays well against them. I think that's great. I think that Dex will have a good game against them. Problem is that who's going to be playing in the secondary? If Banks is unable to be there and be that guy,
right?
If Flott is out and can't be that guy as
Adoree, of course, missed last week with a concussion.
Adoree's out, so now your 3 top corners are watching
against the quarterback who leads the league in passing yards. Because of course he's the only one who's of the top. He's played 10 games, and Tua and CJ Stroud is number 2, Tua's number 3. They've only played 9 games, but still. Sam Howell leading the NFL in passing yards.
So that's what you're dealing with for this game. You're dealing with you're limping in, and the guys that are playing are going to have to find a way to be great. That means, what does Wink do? Does Wink bring extra pressure to try to get to him, or does Wink put more guys in coverage to try to prevent them from getting more yards after the catch? That's going to be an interesting thing from an offensive standpoint. The offensive line is playing a little bit better. They're not giving up 10, 7, 8, 9 sacks a game. They're playing a little better. They're playing a little stronger. I like that. I think the big deal is going to be, DeVito and Saquon. Can they risk letting him run a little bit? Because if he runs a little bit, it takes a little more pressure off of Saquon. If Saquon gets going a little bit, then it takes pressure off of everything. So that's going to be the biggest moment in the game is, can they find a way to get Saquon going, and will they risk letting DeVito, carry the ball out, which he did a couple times in the game, and it helps with the flow of the game from the way they're calling their plays, the way this offense kind of runs.
Right.
But if he runs, he puts himself in danger.
Well, and you look at the way, Saquon had 13 carries last week, 66 yards. And yes, Dallas hasn't given up a 100-yard rusher yet this season, but had he gotten 25, 30 carries.
Yeah, but you have to, if you're going to get the carries, you got to do something on first down. The problem they were having last week was the interior line was getting beat pretty soundly by Dallas's interior defensive line, and that stopped all the runs almost instantly.
And they were 0 for 12 on third down.
Yeah, and then they started running towards the edges in the second half. And the reason why that was working, I would think, is because Dallas had, pass defense personnel in mostly.
Right.
So that would kind of loosen up who was coming up to stop the run, and that helped them gain yards in the game. This game, they're going to have to figure out a way. The strength of the Washington defense is their interior D linemen.
Well, perhaps, but this Jack Del Rio defense still 21st in rushing yards allowed, 28th in average yards per rush in the league.
Okay.
So while they have some strong pieces in there, they still do give up the plays
on the edges. Yes,
on the edges,
yeah.
And you know what? It happens.
Yeah.
201-939-4513 is the phone number. We've got phone lines starting to fill up. Let's get to some callers while we have them here. Cliff in New York is on line 1. Cliff, you're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Madeline and Howard. How's it going?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking the call. I'm curious about the internal defensive line, especially, I think, Madeline, where DJ Davidson came to us from, right?
ASU.
Yeah. I was feeling really good about his signing, and I felt really bad when he got hurt, and then he's back, and I thought I saw him doing really well a few weeks ago, and then not, and I wasn't sure if he was even on the field, and then I saw him in the frame one time in the bad game last week. Looked like he almost got there. Is he supposed to be able to apply pressure up the middle? Because I know on the quarterback, because I know we didn't sign A'Shawn Robinson and Nacho thinking they could do that. They were supposed to fill in for the runs so that when Howard was working the sideline, he didn't see the devastation that would happen when Leonard and Dexter went out of the game. So I was looking for some clarification on that, and also, are they expecting that from him? Does he have the potential? If not him, is there somebody else? I would just like to start with that.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Like the way that they had the defense designed, you had Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams, and they were playing about 70% of the plays. So that they forced, they played well together. They knew each other's movements, so to speak, and they were able to quote unquote put pressure on quarterbacks, make sure there was not a double team every time on Dexter. It made Thibodeau a better player because you couldn't get to him. He could move out a little bit to protect against not to protect against the run because you couldn't really run against Dex and Leonard. The other guys that they brought in, not counting the draft pick, they brought in to give these guys a rest so they can come out the game and take a couple breathers, a couple plays off. The young man that you're speaking of was drafted. He was also drafted to, hopefully to develop in something much better. Mm-hmm. But he's drafted at that moment like, okay, well, you're big, you're strong, you can help stop the run.
Yeah.
And and if you get to the quarterback, that's a bonus. But you definitely can help stop the run. So when you're asking, is he going to be in and be able to quote unquote get up the field and go get the quarterback, I'm going to say he has all the potential in the world to do it. But that's not probably why they drafted him when they were drafting him, because they had different plans at the beginning of the year when the draft was going around.
And he does have that skill and that ability. We saw him doing that at college, but again, doing that in college is very different than doing that in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And they haven't really put him in that position, like you said, as frequently as they have, say, an A'Shawn Robinson or someone like that to be filling in. DJ Davidson is still kind of on that peripheral of that spot. And he's a huge guy. He's got a lot of raw talent, but I think he's still developing.
Yeah, and I think that he's going to get more opportunities.
Yes.
And I just think because right now the Giants are going to try to get better in some positions and try to get, see what they got in some guys. And they're going to try to – they want to win games. I don't want anybody to think they're not trying to win games. But they got to show improvement as they go. And the way to do that, you got to start checking who can do and who can't do things.
Right.
Yeah, well, it sounds like there's some hope for him showing some improvement in the next few games if he gets the opportunities then to be able to do that particular thing.
Well, he'll get his opportunities, believe me.
Yeah. Well, because I got really lit up about how good the defense looked a few weeks ago for several weeks in a row, and I got so excited I started comparing them to defenses of the past, and then with the loss of Leonard, which I totally supported, I understood why they had to do that. Mm-hmm. With the loss of Leonard, though, that really it reminded me that when I was a big fan of anybody's defense in the past, you would always not hear about the guys that counted the most in making that happen, which was the two internal defensive linemen.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, both of those guys are Pro Bowlers, though, so that's pretty much when you take one of the Pro Bowlers out, that you get a different look. Totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I just wish us the best of luck in restoring some level of pressure up the middle, because without that, I'm still going to watch every game, and and I hope we have some corners. By the way, is Aaron Robinson still on the team?
A-Rob? Yeah, no.
Yeah.
He's in. Hold on, remind me.
They let him go when he was hurt.
He was hurt, but then he's.
Where is he now?
I thought he was still.
Well, if he's not with us, that's all I want.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I think he's. He might be on injured reserve still, but yeah.
If he's still injured, then
he's gone. Yeah, okay. I'm pretty sure.
Oh. All right.
But yeah.
Well.
There's a lot of injuries right now.
Yeah. Well, at the beginning of the year, and then I'll let you go, when we were making some predictions, I was asking, did we think we had some depth finally? Depth was the big project going back to Gettleman's first year.
Yep.
And did we think we had the depth to survive some injuries? And the answer was yes, but I guess maybe the extent of the injuries was more than that. What do you think?
Oh, that's real easy. No one expected to be on your third quarterback by now. No one expected to be, to have at one point in the game 5 guys that are not playing their position on the offensive line and having 2 practice squad guys playing, trying to figure it out, and then bringing guys in from other teams and off the couch to play. So yeah, I think they've ran through the injury pool pretty sufficiently, and it's, and you're going to see we kind of came back from it from the offensive line standpoint. You're starting to see guys. I think Evan Neal's down now, but most of the guys are in their position. Then you look at the defense, and all of a sudden, Thibodeau's got a concussion. Adoree has a concussion. Banks has an ankle. Flott has a shoulder. That's not looking very promising. So, like, when guys start getting nicked up in the back end, and you're hoping they can come back and hopefully they can play, that adds to a lot of problems and a lot of questions for them. But what I always tell people, that gives other guys another chance to play. You may not be a starter, but now you get a chance to try to, quote unquote, make yourself some money, because if you do well enough, somebody else will be wanting to talk to you at the end of the year.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right,
Cliff,
thanks, guys.
Cliff, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you taking the time. Big Blue Kickoff Live, 201-939-4513 is the phone number. First, want to remind you guys all that make sure you go and subscribe to the Giants Huddle podcast. It features long-form interviews with Giants players, coaches, and front office staff, past and present. Plus, hear from the best analysts covering Big Blue and the NFL. Search for Giants Huddle and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, or go to giants.com/podcasts. And don't forget, if you are on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star positive review for our Giants podcast. Let us know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. We are here for it. Good stuff from Cliff. Thanks so much again for the call. As we go back to the phone lines again, 201-939-4513 is the phone number. Jamal in Dallas, you're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Madeline and Howard. How's it going, Jamal?
How y'all doing?
Doing all right.
Good.
How you doing?
I'm good. Despite being at the game this past Sunday, we have a family tradition. My family. This is the funny part. My family's from the back east, and they're all Cowboy fans. And I always tell them my dad raised me right, and my aunts and uncles raised me wrong. So
That's funny.
And you're now a Giants fan in Dallas. The struggle is real.
I've been a Giants fan. I've been all over. I'm a military brat. But
Okay.
Oh, God bless.
dad,
God bless.
my parents are city kids. They're from the city.
Mhm.
They raised me a Giants fan. So that's how it is. But so I just saw that Ken Dorsey just got fired. Not that I'm advocating for him to come to the Giants, but I'm wondering though. My concern is, when we're having the type of season that we were having, last year was the outlier season, right? But not that we need to see change, but I want to know what change possibly can happen. I know we're not getting rid of Sean and Dable, and stuff like that, but do we need to change some offensive philosophy with our OC? I like Wink. I really do like Wink, even for Baltimore days. I always felt like he had a tough, aggressive, physicality defense, and I don't think he's a problem. However, I do believe when you have new coordinators, head coach, I do believe you need like someone who has kind of that NFL coaching experience in one of those roles. When I mean by coaching experience, head coaching experience, to help the new coach come along and stuff like that. Sometimes, but I'm just wondering, like, where? Yeah, I just see it because I'm gonna talk about the play. Our offensive creativity is terrible. Like, there was no reason why on our 4th and goal, and if it was supposed to be an RPO, it was a terrible RPO.
Okay.
And the fact that we handed the ball straight to Saquon in the middle of that hole where we know we're kind of weak in that area, it's kind of like just kick the point, just kick the field goal. If that was your best player.
Well, I don't know if it was the best player or not, and I don't know if it was an RPO or if they were handing it off or something else, but plays don't work. If the play works, it's a great play. If the play doesn't work, it's a terrible play. If he throws a pass and it gets batted down or intercepted, it's a terrible play. If he throws a pass and it's a touchdown, it's a great play. If he kicks the field goal, I've heard fans just recently say, like, well, you didn't need the field goal. There was nothing you could do at that point. You got to go for the points. I'm like, but you didn't get the points, and you're complaining.
Right.
They're like, so I'm like,
at least we would have had something.
yeah. So you're trying to figure something out. So my view of it is, I'm just I'm not conservative at whatsoever, but my view of it is I want to see progress in certain ways and anytime I can. So I would have took the points, came back and tried to rally to see what else we could do. And talk about, okay, well, what are our options when we get down there? But when you got the quarterback that's a rookie quarterback, and it's not DeVito's fault by any stretch of the imagination, but when you have a rookie quarterback that's coming in with that kind of a defense and that maybe that kind of pressure, you got to pick your poison. The last thing you want to do is try to throw it in the end zone and he intercepts it and runs it back. We've had some of that.
We had that some years ago. So I do have something. So I listened to y'all take off this call about the coaching stuff and all that, and Ken Dorsey being fired. And I'm not saying talk about people getting fired, but what are some we got to do something. But there's some questions with some of our players getting upset, getting frustrated, which is fine. I played the game. I played at Norfolk State in Virginia.
Okay.
So I get the game. I understand the emotion. I was a high emotional player. So I was always the one that had to be calmed down by a coach or from a teammate. But we're starting to see this a lot more throughout. And I get it. The losing does that. It creates that in a way, right? And we're going to be on you. But I just want to make sure, are the players okay? Are we, I know there was some talk with McKinney last week and stuff like that. Is the locker room good, or are we in some type of friction?
Well, Jamal, I think, and thank you so much for the call. I appreciate that. I think that one of the things that you want to see when a team is not doing well, when a team is struggling, is frustration, right? If you saw the sideline, everyone was just ho-hum, hunky-dory, it's fine. You wouldn't want people to be okay with mediocrity, okay with things that aren't going well. And that passion, that fire, that conversation in a heated way is more passion, I think. I mean, Darius Slayton was talking about this. He's like, yeah, we're fine. We're teammates. Yes, we have moments where we get heated, but that's because they're in the trenches together and they're fired up over this stuff too. And I think to your point as well about having coordinators with head coaching experience, how quickly we forget Brian Dable was the coach of the year last year, right? This is a guy who knows how to coach. He's been coaching for 22 years. And I think, yes, this is a season that is a bit of an anomaly. As much as last year exceeded expectations, this year did not meet expectations. That being said, I don't think we need to start. Okay, well, who's this? Who's that? Whatever. Ken Dorsey, very talented coach. I'm sure he will land somewhere quite soon.
Well, I will say this. Like I said this before the season started. It says if healthy, we'll have a chance to win some games.
Right.
That's what I said. And we haven't really been healthy.
And availability really is the best ability because if you're not on the field, it's hard to win a game.
Yeah. So it's not just your coach is coaching the games to he wants to score points, he wants to win, and he's coaching like that. Like I said, there are guys out there that were probably developmental guys that are having to play major roles in games. That doesn't mean they're not pros. It just means that they haven't played major roles now. And when you have to play a major role, you got to uptick a long way. You can't be like, okay, I think I know what I'm doing, to like, okay, I know what I'm doing. You got to anticipate things. And the anticipation of certain things is what they're lacking because this is not their role.
Right.
And they know what to do, just like I said, but it's the difference between knowing what to do and anticipating what's going to happen. And that's the big moment.
Well, and it's like you can't judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree. You got somebody.
What?
Exactly. You can't judge a fish by his ability to climb a tree because that's not a skill set. And you know what? If you've got a squirrel in the starting role and then you got a fish in the backup, it's just a little bit of a different, it makes sense if you don't think about it. But here's the deal. But here's the other thing too. I mean, it's like you look across the league, you look at the Jets, for example, just across town. Aaron Rodgers, they had this offense built for a culinary Michelin star chef, and then you bring in somebody who's a cook at best, who can make himself chicken cutlets if he needs to.
So you're saying
it's a very different skill set.
You went from Michelin star to Taco Bell. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, not quite, but like maybe Chipotle, like a little. But what I'm saying is so it takes some time to curtail the scheme, the system that to meet.
Are killing me.
You're welcome. To meet the skill set of the players you currently have on the field, because you build this scheme, you build this offense, you build this defense around the players that you anticipate to be on the field. And then when you have to sub them out because of injuries, because of whatever, it's like, okay, well, this person doesn't have the skill set that the person in front of them has, that we built this to their strength. So
okay, this is what I think. And I'm not going to use I'm not going to use any analogies. This is what happens.
It's more fun if you do.
I believe that the guys that are playing the best they can. They're playing at the top level of their abilities. And I think that
absolutely.
I think that when you're playing against a guy that may be a Pro Bowler in front of you, you're going to look like you're playing at the best of your abilities. He's playing the best of his abilities. It just happens. It looks like that when you're in coverage. It looks like that when you're trying to block somebody in front of you that's a lot better than you. It just looks like that. Mm-hmm. And that's what they're dealing with.
Right.
Now, how do you get around it? How do you coach against it? You might get 2 plays that are going to work. You might get 3 plays that are going to work. But then they're going to get you on the very next play. Mm-hmm. And it just happens. Saquon is a phenomenal back, and he can make a couple guys miss. But if there are 3 guys in the backfield, the 3rd guy gets him.
Right.
So that's what you're going to deal with until, like, they can, you can go back to day 1 of training camp and say, we're doing day 1 of installations, and then we're going to run our games from there. But that becomes extraordinarily predictable, and teams load up and stop it.
Yeah.
You have to, try to find little things that guys can improve on and can do well. That's the only thing you have. And I tell people that, I'm like, you can want them to be something greater, but they're going to give you all they got, and you can think, man, that guy, And, if they give you something, they show a couple things, all of a sudden they get a chance to be back.
Right.
If they don't show anything, not only they're not back next year, they might not be in the league next year.
Yeah.
So they're playing for their lives too. So I understand how fans feel. I want guys to do better, and I want there to be more plays. And I talk ad nauseum about the 4th down play. Should they have kicked the field goal? Should have did this? Like, no, you don't kick the field goal, because if you kick the field goal, it doesn't do anything for the game. At that point, it was 7-0.
Yeah, there's a big difference between a goose egg and points on the board.
Yeah, but you didn't know.
But
scoring
perhaps
17 points by the end of the game was a major improvement.
But also, you think about the last time that the Giants played Dallas, and that first time they went for the field goal and it was blocked and ran back for a touchdown. So maybe you're thinking, I don't know if we want to go there again.
Yeah, so it's just it's a lot of stuff that you got to think about.
And hindsight is always 20/20.
No, 100%.
100% indeed. Giants fans, join us Sunday, November 19th at Hair of the Dog in Manhattan to watch the Giants take on Washington. Enjoy Modelo drink specials, meet a Giants legend, and enter a raffle to win game tickets and more. Visit giants.com/bar network to learn more. It's Big Blue Kickoff Live on Tuesday, November 14th. Madeline Burke and Howard Cross, 201-939-4513 is the phone number. What?
Ken Dorsey is the guy that was coaching Josh Allen?
Yeah, the offensive coordinator for the Bills.
And they were suggesting we should call him up. Why?
That's a question for the caller that is no longer on the line.
Not that I think anything. I think
Howard had like a late landing realization. He's like, wait a minute.
Like, Ken Dorsey was the guy who was coaching Josh. Like, if you got that guy and you can't get it going, like, why would we? Anyway, go ahead. My bad.
I mean, Josh Allen's got the struggles going on. He's got 10 interceptions. What is it? I don't know. He's a lot.
Again, that's not my. I can't. I'm worried about my guys.
Yeah. 201-939-4513. Let's go back to the phone lines. Vinny in Florida is on line 1. Vinny, you're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Madeline and Howard.
Hey, Madeline and Howard. I talked to you guys last week.
Good to hear from you, Vinny.
Fun guys to talk about.
Thank you.
Hopefully you remember the name Vinny, which I'm sure you don't.
How could we not? How could we not, Vinny?
There you go. Hey, wanted to make just a couple comments. I mean, this year is one of those years that unfortunately happens too much to Giant fans. But I want to make a comment about the defense, first of all, giving up 600 or so yards.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a product of the offense. 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 4 and out. And you just get tired. I mean, I just thought it was, they came out of the game and stopped them on goal line. Granted, Dallas is Dallas, but I don't think we should be giving up on the defense at all. But that said, I remember back in the 80s when we drafted LT and we had some solid players. I used to see him, if I remember correctly, he willed games. If we needed a sack, he got a sack. And if he needed to disrupt or cause a fumble, he caused a fumble. He willed teams. And, I don't think we've got a player like that besides Dexter Lawrence on. I don't know, but I'm curious before I get to the next point, what your thoughts on having a vocal defensive guy that can bring out the best in other players and help them overachieve when the team is underachieving.
Well, you're talking about two different things. You're talking about, is there a player kind of like LT that can will something to happen? There are no players like LT. The league has been looking for another LT since LT left the league. That's one. As far as vocal players, you have players that are out there that are, they're not put focus in the camera on them because the Giants aren't winning, but there are guys that are like, trying to drive home. Let's get it done. If it's not McKinney, it's Dexter. If it's not Dexter, it's Bobby out there in the middle. Like these guys are trying their best to, make sure everything is happening in the right place and in the right space. But like I said, it's about the Moes and the Joes, and some of the Moes and the Joes aren't out there right now.
Yeah, and then the other thing I wanted to mention, getting on the offense.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it, everyone's calling for Dable's head. I think we all need to settle down for that. Look at how the Bills are doing. Didn't Dable call the plays for the Bills 2 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
They've kind of taken a step back, which I think is a credit to his talent as a coach. That they haven't performed like everyone expected them, because they've been looked at as a perennial contender for the Super Bowl, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So I think that's it's something that people have to be aware of. It's like no team. I mean, I remember when the Jets lost Vinny Testaverde in the first game of the year that year. They went from hot and heavy like they did this year with Aaron Rodgers to playoffs to, hey, we're going to struggle without this guy. You just can't roll without Andrew Thomas, without Saquon, without Daniel Jones. But I just want to say one thing about Daniel Jones. I think he needs to get better at pocket awareness. I watch a lot of games. I see Mahomes now. Granted, Mahomes is a special guy, but I think I see Mahomes when there's 2-3 seconds in the pocket. He kind of takes a step and gets away from looking at the receivers, but he looks at the line and where he's got to go to buy more time. And I think Daniel's fast enough to be able to buy more time if he thinks through that. Hey, I'm here 2.5 seconds. I'm either going to get crunched or I got to get out of here. Take a quick look and then decide, do you run left, do you run right, or do you run for the yardage? Because a lot of times Mahomes will run for the yardage. A lot of times he'll run for the space to buy more time.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times he'll run for the space and then say, hey, this isn't working, and let me run. It'd be great to see Daniel do that, because I think he's got the speed, and he's definitely smart enough to be able to do it if he's taught right. And, the other thing comes with, under the pressure, can you perform and think like he should?
Well, I think the problem with Daniel wasn't that he was pocket awareness. I think he was getting hit sometimes before he could take his third step. And when you're getting hit before your third step, then, you're having a hard time. The other thing that he has that is an issue is that sometimes, especially on twist and blitz, sometimes a guy that's coming free is supposed to be blocked or at least slowed down.
Mm-hmm.
And if that guy's not slowed down, he's coming free. Like the play when he got hurt against, I forget, Seattle, and it hurt his neck. The guy comes off the corner. That guy's supposed to be blocked.
That was whiplash.
Yeah, so like that's what he dealt with, and he dealt with it mainly because the offensive line was struggling, but also Saquon wasn't in the game. So now there's no focus on somebody running out of the backfield, somebody getting dumped down to something happening. The focus on, okay, just watch Daniel because he's going to try to run eventually, and let's get after him. And if you don't score early in the game and find some way to put some points on the board, and it gets to the point where you're down 2 touchdowns, everybody's like, okay, well, they got to throw it now, because they don't throw it, they can't get back in the game. And when you pin your ears back, if you're having a hard time to begin to stop them in regular downs and situation, when you're just throwing it because you have to try to get back in the game, that's no opportunity for an offensive line that's struggling. It just isn't.
Yeah, that's good feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I just want to see over the next couple of weeks when we're in games with mid-level teams that we compete, I'd like to see them play Tommy DeVito until Tyrod is back, because they got to decide, hey, should he be a practice squad quarterback and in their emergencies get up, or is it just like, hey, we need a better caliber, playoff caliber, not playoff caliber, but
yeah.
Hey, we don't expect two quarterbacks
I
to go down.
totally understand that. I think DeVito will do better this week. I think that like I said, they've gotten rid of their pass rushers from Washington, their major guys off the edge, and I think that they're gonna, squeeze it down in the middle to try to keep those 2 or 3 guys off the quarterback. If they can do that, he'll have a little time to throw the ball. Then it's gonna be onus is gonna be on the receivers then to really speed up their routes and get open. So and like with Hyatt. Also being down, we didn't even mention him.
Hyatt left the game last week with a concussion.
It's going to have to be. Is Slayton going to be able to get down the field? Is he the only deep threat? If he's the only deep threat, then they're going to focus on Slayton going down the field. So everybody else is going to pick up their game just a little bit to figure out a way to quote unquote get open. It's maybe intermediate passes, which I prefer when a quarterback is trying to get off the snide, so to speak, and trying to get his confidence and his legs under him. But if it's down the field, somebody's got to be willing to, he's got to let it go early, and those guys got to be running to get there.
Yeah. Well, I'll give Tommy DeVito some credit in that he's been nothing but accountable, and he owned that game against Dallas. He didn't, blame it on, hey, I'm a rookie. He owned it and said what he should have done. And you know what? When we're in a position where, I like listening to the post game. I like listening to all the different shows you all produce there. Shows you what kind of boring life I have.
Hey, we appreciate you, Vinny. Thanks so much
bored.
for tuning in.
You're just informed.
You're informed and you're entertained. Are you not entertained?
Yeah. All righty. I appreciate you guys. You have a good one.
We appreciate it. Thanks so much for the call again this week, Vinny. Always a pleasure. I mean, Vinny makes a really good point, too, especially about DeVito being so poised. And, I mean, you're a rookie undrafted quarterback getting your first NFL start against the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas. Like, that's a tall task. This isn't,
that's something you've watched your whole
Bengals.
life.
This isn't, like a smaller market team. This is a big market team. This is a team that calls themselves America's team. This is the Dallas Cowboys. You're going into there in a big rivalry between the Giants and the Cowboys. DeVito was poised. He was confident. And like Vinny mentioned as well, in the post-game presser, he held his own. He kind of took that accountability. He was mature. And these are all the attributes that you want to see from a quarterback, from a young quarterback. That being said, he's still got some learning curves, some lessons to learn on the field.
I think DeVito did a good job in that aspect, but I also think that I have people talk to me all week long. Hey, you've got a Jersey kid in there. It's going to be good to see how he plays. I'm like, you do realize we're playing Dallas, right? They're like, well, he has a chance if he just does this, and this. I'm like, okay. I said, everybody has to be on at the same time to make sure we can help him out, and that's what you're looking at. So yeah, he did a good job. He did a great job in the interview. He did a decent enough job in the game. He got the ball out. He wasn't turning it over every down or something like that. He wasn't taking a tremendous amount of sacks because he had time and he was scrambling, got a few yards that way. The question is going to be, like, when he has an opportunity to get it back down the red zone, how can you find a way to make one play?
Yeah.
You don't have to make 5. You don't have to just make one play. If you get one play correct, then all of a sudden you might have a chance for a touchdown. And he did that. He made the one play. The call was right. The tight end got on the edge and got to the touchdown. KJ did a great job. You just got to have the one play, and it's got to work. And it can't be, hey, the ball comes out, the guy didn't catch it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's just part of it. So everybody has to be at best on their P's and Q's in that moment. And I think that he's I'm not saying he's going to change the world, but he has a chance to improve on his skills week in and week out. He knows more this week than he did last week. He knew more last week than he did the week before. The game is great when you're studying it. The game is better when you're practicing it, and the game is really good when you start to play it. And you'll find out all your abilities pretty quickly. And
it's a very different opponent this week than last. The Washington Commanders, a very different team to go against than the Dallas Cowboys. So we will see how he continues to evolve.
Pulling for him
Pulling for him indeed. Giants fans, 2023 NFL schedule is officially out. Single game tickets are on sale now. Don't miss the Giants at MetLife Stadium this season. Visit Giants.com/tickets to secure your seat today. And Giants fans, you can take your fandom to the next level with a season ticket membership. You can stay connected to the club all year round, not just on game days. Memberships are now available for the 2023 season. To learn more about all the exclusive member benefits, visit Giants.com/tickets. Limited inventory is still available. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. It's Big Blue Kickoff Live on Tuesday, November 14th, as we head back to the phone lines. Howard, we've got Tony in Brooklyn on the line. Tony, what's happening? You're on BBKL with Madeline and Howard.
Thank you, Madeline. Thank you, Howard. Got many great memories, Howard, of you and the team, back in '90, right, in the Super Bowl run. But what I wanted to mention is I went out to the Vegas game. I spent the week's salary, took my family out there, and it was one of the most difficult games I've ever seen in the 60 years that I've been a Giants fan. And, two things that I have questions about, I try to keep answering in my own head, and I wanted to ask you is, what is the issue with the injuries? I mean, personally, when I look at the Giants and I think back even in the years that we were bad, we were always a tough team. Even if teams were coming in to play us, right, we may not win, but they were coming out going into the ice bath the next day. And, it's not the case now. Like, it seems like every snap we're backing up, we're running for our lives. I do personally feel that the loss of Leonard Williams kind of was a gut punch to, the team itself. And I'm searching for answers because in 60 years, right, I've never seen us in this position. Even living through Joe Pisarcik, they call it the miracle. It wasn't a miracle.
The miracle of the metal. Well, I think a lot of it is like, and this is just me being a non-medical person, and I say this all the time, and I'll repeat it again. I think it's like boxing. When you're getting ready to have a fight, you have to spar. You have to spar a lot in order to get down the technique of the other guy and learn how to protect yourself, what you're trying to do, what your game plan is when somebody's leaning and hugging and grabbing and pulling and all this stuff. And that's how you protect yourself from when you're ready to fight. We played for years, and I'm not saying that the new medical world is different, but what we're doing now, we're in the media. You got us via web. There are other avenues to reach out. We're talking constantly about the teams. You're digesting football. And part of digesting football, people have comments and people have thoughts. And the thoughts and the comments are starting to seep back into, quote unquote, what the football is doing. So a few years ago, right after I retired, they started, quote unquote, dialing back some of the practices and trying to, we got to protect guys in practice. I'm like, I played a long time, played hard, never got hurt in practice. No, not. Yeah. I can remember one guy out of my 20 plus years of playing football to get hurt in practice. One. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, we do see guys get hurt in practice, especially with the non-contact injuries. I mean, how many guys?
Again, that's non-contact. But that didn't happen back then.
Yeah.
And it's because
that's a great insight.
Yeah, because people were just leaning on each other. You were hitting each other, and your body. I think it's attributed to. I think a lot of people trained for, and I'm not saying this. I'm not trying to kill anybody's training regiments, but I think a lot of people train for the quote unquote combine, and that kind of training. Right. It gets their 40 times down. It makes them faster. It makes them more explosive.
You can bench more.
You can do all these different things, but it's not.
All the Instagram flexes, how much they can squat.
Yeah, it's not always football related.
Right.
And I think that's something that people want to do. And when teams see a team that's doing a lot of football related workouts, players might shy away from it. Like, I don't want to do that. I remember players, and I won't call these names. People didn't like doing cleans and squats and snatches and stuff. And somebody goes, what does that have to do with football? It increases your hand strength, it increases your shoulder strength, and it increases your explosion. They're like, yeah, but what does it have to do with football? So
that's a great point.
Right. So
that's a great point.
So when you get when you get veteran players saying, I don't need to practice that much, and then they negotiate it away, this is what you're left with. You get a lot of non-contact injuries because you're not practicing at full speed, you're not hitting, you're not doing anything. And the moment that you jump and cut, something pops.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you so much. That's a great insight. May I ask one other question?
Of course, Tony.
Okay, thank you. So I'm thinking back to the game with the Jets. Right, okay. And it was 28 seconds left, right? It's 4th and 1, right, I think it was, and we decided to kick the field goal with a kicker who missed the field goal earlier, was a little banged up, and instead of, when Saquon was running good or your defense is playing good, instead of going for it. Now, my question is, did analytics play into that at all? And I'm just wondering, like, are people getting away from their gut too much and focusing on what the analysts are saying instead?
I know. I think what happened in that spot was that I don't think they knew how hurt he was.
Yeah.
I think they thought that. I think they thought that the first kick, the ball kind of dribbled a little bit on the ground, and he kind of like did a quick hitch before he kicked, and then the second kick, he had it, but everybody says like, well, he could have. I'm like, he couldn't have done anything because the guy jumped over the line and he was right in line for him. If he kicks it straight, they're going to block it and run it back, and the Giants will be chasing them from behind. So he had two moments there, like the slow hitch thing, and then him pulling it to try to get it around the guy that jumped over the line, which is still amazing that you can do that kicking the ball.
Right.
but,
which is why, yeah.
I'm
which is
like,
why
that's like, how do you do that?
talented
Like, that's
player,
kind of, he's a very talented kicker and everything. But so those are the things I'm looking at when I'm watching special teams. I'm watching to see, hey, is the snap clean? Is he able to take a step and make a clean hit? Which the first one, like a little bit off, not bad, but just a little bit off. That made him hesitate a little bit. And then the second one, he is avoiding the block for the return. So,
got it.
Yeah, so like if you get that guy down, if someone touches that guy when he jumps over, just touches him, it's an illegal play. You get a automatic first down. But you gotta be trained to do that. There's no one being trained to do that because no one really jumps over the line anymore.
Well, especially because they've changed the rules and how you are allowed to and able to
as long as you
do
don't
that.
touch anybody,
right?
Yes.
Which is
and there are some,
very hard to do.
There are some athletes. Well,
I mean, yeah.
I'm not gonna say anything.
It's okay.
I'm
The
not-
internet is
we're
on.
not-
Giants
we're not-
TikTok has seen my lack of a vertical.
I'm not gonna say anything about your vertical, Matt. But like now there are guys that can actually jump over the line and not touch them with their vertical. I know the box jump. If you jump in like 48 inches or better, you can definitely jump over the line.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome insight. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the call, Tony.
No problem.
Appreciate you. 201-939-4513. Great call from Tony. Giants fans, Giants official connected TV streaming app Giants TV brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV, and the Giants mobile app. It's a good point that you made, Howard. I mean, not just in football, but in life. It's what my dad always says to me. He's like, you got to learn how to take a hit sometimes, Things don't always fall your way, and you got to learn how to adjust and maneuver. And much like in life, in football, you got to learn how to take a hit. Everyone's got a plan until they get hit in the face, like Mike Tyson would say.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to be said about watching it. Like, I can watch football and be like, oh, wow, that guy makes it look easy. Just, popping right back up after getting pummeled by a 300-pound dude. Some of these receivers are my weight, my size. Well, not quite mine, but, still.
I'm not gonna say a word.
I don't know.
You
I'm
are
a tall.
you really are just reaching today. I like that.
I'm tall. I'm
got
big.
it. Okay.
I'm for a girl, Anyway, but I cannot imagine like watching it and being like, oh yeah, that's fine, and then going out and executing it. You need to kind of learn how to take that impact.
It's like leverage. Your body, your ligaments and everything. You strengthen them when you do certain things, and then when you're getting touched and pushed and leaned on, you only have so many reps. I agree. You only have so many reps, but when you're making the muscles around that movement, it's kind of like a young lady. When she goes from being like 11 to 12, she always, hurts her knee in a lot of sports. That's a major injury in girls' sports. You have to train her legs and her knees like almost like a rehab. So when she gets to that age and that starts to happen, it won't happen to her. And that's like people don't think that way.
Yeah.
And so like you got guys that are out here, okay, I'm running a 4.39 40. I'm blowing it up. And then you I'm going to change direction. Well, that is not how you run the 4.39 changing direction.
Right.
That's straight ahead speed. If you have to put your foot in the ground and change direction, you put a lot of stress on things. If you're backing up and you're like trying to really back up to get away from somebody, things snap.
Yeah.
If you just got to be practicing the angles, the position, the feel the entire time.
But to Tony's point too, I mean, the Giants are not the only team in the NFL that practices this way. I mean, there are very few teams that do practice with more physicality.
There are a lot of teams that practice with a lot more physicality.
Okay.
There are a lot of teams that they get after it a little bit more, and those teams don't have as many injuries. And that's not that I want our guys to practice harder or anything like that, but some teams are they can't go all the way back, but they go as close as they can get because they're trying to, simulate more football-related football practice, not just plays and stuff, but trying to simulate more practice that way. And I think the Giants will start leaning in that direction as it goes on because it's just harder and harder to do because guys are getting too hurt too easily.
Well, and it's a catch-22, right? You're getting hurt playing the game, so you feel like, okay, let's be a little bit lighter in practice because we want to protect. And then you get, hurt more because of that. I mean, it's like the same with NBA load management, right? No, you got to play.
Jordan was great for a reason. Played every night.
Exactly. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. Let's go back to the phone lines. John in Staten Island, you're on the line with Madeline and Howard on Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Hi, guys. I just wanted to keep on this topic of the injuries for a second. One of the things that is of deep concern to me is the fact that we not only had a lot of injuries this year, but we lead the league in injuries over the last 10 years. So I think that it's time to put a plan in place to copy or steal some of the things that the other teams are doing and finding out who the least injured team is and maybe looking at what they're doing that's different than what we're doing. That's one.
Yeah, I think they're a little bit snake bit. I don't want to say it like that, but it's just Daniel Jones got hurt in Vegas. That's a natural grass field.
Yeah.
Right.
So that had nothing to do with over the 10 years. It's not. It's nothing specific you can draw on. There's like I said, there's nothing that you can get to tell. Andrew Thomas got hurt the first time. He pulled a hamstring because he was sprinting at full speed to try to catch the guy who blocked. You can't prevent that. You can prevent that by blocking him so he doesn't block the kick, but the sprint of a man that size, you're bound to get hurt in that situation. I think John Michael Schmitz was out for a while with a shoulder. I think
that was after the tush push.
Yeah, and Saquon makes a cut, twists his ankle on a tackle, so he's down. That's not stuff that we can quote unquote. You can't fix that. That's just part of the problem of the game is that you're going to get banged up, you're going to get hurt, you're going to get nicked up, and it's your availability is your greatest asset when you're playing, especially when you're a starter. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly agree. Where I take exception is the fact that we're one of 32 teams. So that's a pretty big sample size. And we're looking over a 10-year period, which is a pretty big sample size.
Right.
And if I'm a business owner and I see those will last in two important areas, I have to take a hard look at that.
Well, I'll go all the way back to Coach Coughlin and before Coach Coughlin. Before Coach Coughlin came in, the little space they had between, he was talking about, it's a shame that these guys are always injured, and we're going to change that. And
I remember that.
Yeah, they played pretty well. They kept the offensive line pretty much intact, but there were still injuries around. Players. There were certain players that went out and everything, but they could manage because the main guys didn't get injured. And he just was very fortunate that his main guys never got injured. And think about it. I mean, and Daniel Jones is a big, tough, strong kid. I mean, big dude. He you see him like, that guy's running. That's why he's running the ball and running over people and all this stuff. But part of it is you put your body at risk. And you look at Eli, you think, well, Eli's just a big, tall guy, but he's not like a big, tall guy. He's just a tall guy. And you start thinking,
and he's certainly not fast.
Definitely not fast. And then at the end of the day, he played. He didn't come off the field. And I used to hear this all the time about, oh man, we got to find a guy. Eli's just horrible. Eli this and Eli that. And I used to laugh. I'm like, do you realize this guy plays every down? He does the famous roll over, and when a guy rolls over and does that push up, instead of just getting up off the ground, that means he's hurt. And he would get up, catch his breath, and go back in for another play. So that's just two different eras, two different guys, two different ways they were trying to do it. And when I hear people talk about, oh well, Eli was this, Eli was that, I'm like, Eli answered the bell. And that's hard. And that's hard to do. And believe me, that's hard to do. You don't know how many surgeries he probably had in the offseason because he never talked about it. You don't know how many things he had to fix in the offseason because he didn't talk about it. He just went ahead and played and took what he got and came back with it. A lot like what Daniel does. Daniel doesn't talk about his injuries. People ask him about them constantly. But he's like, yeah, I think I'm getting better and progressing. Did you break your neck or did you hurt your neck? It's not really the same injury. I think I'm getting better and progressing. Like that's all he said the entire time.
And all he says is, I'm doing what I can to get back on the field on Sunday because that's where he wants to be on the field. This is a tough guy.
And I am a believer in Daniel Jones. I don't believe that the Giants' woes start and end with Daniel Jones. They start and end in other places. One of the other places, one of my other concerns is our failure to bring along offensive linemen and to in general bring along players, to players improving from the beginning of the season to the end of the season and from their first year to their second year. I think one of the reasons I was so disappointed in Joe Judge was because educationally he was very close to a doctorate in education, and he couldn't teach the offensive linemen how to block a Dallas stunt. We've been watching this since Eric Flowers. Nobody knows how to block a stunt.
Well, some guys, like I said, Mo's and Joe's are what you're looking at. I think that some guys have elevated their games. I think that Andrew Thomas from year 1 to year 2 to where he's now, he's a Pro Bowler. I think that Evan Neal started out banged up and a little sore, and as he came back from those injuries, he was playing better. He looked like, I think, okay, we're looking good. Joe Michael Schmitz he's playing better every game, and some of the competition's getting better against him, but he's playing better. He'll be stronger and even better next year. The question you have is, like, are our guards going to be good enough? And Brenison is playing good, and now we have Pugh in there, and you're going to be asking that when the season's over. Are those guards going to be good enough? Are we going to be able to grow with our guards? Are we going to be able to grow with other backup linemen to go? Are we going to be able to get another guy to stand beside Sexy Dexy to rush the passer and take on the run? You're looking at things and we're looking at things trying to figure out. Adoree Jackson, are they going to be able to keep him another year, or are they going to have to, is one of these young corners going to step up and be the next guy? Those things happen year in and year out. The injuries happen because they happen, but when I look at the team, I look at you're looking at 1, 2, 3, like two or three positions that could really shore things up and give guys a better chance. I forgot, and we talked about this, but we don't really think about it. What's going to happen with Saquon after the season?
Exactly.
That's.
I mean, they could just go. Huge. It could be right back to where we were. It could be right back to franchise tag.
We could be franchise tagging. He could someone could offer him to get him out of here. Like, there's a lot going on. So it's a good conversation to have. But for now, like I said, they gotta find who can stay with the team longer, because they have to, quote unquote, find ways to play, find ways to make plays. Hey, look, if we're in a situation where we call on you, you have to be able to play. And I always go back to my rookie year. We were playing the Chargers. There was Moat, there was Bavaro. I was the third guy. I was the move guy. I was like, man, this is cool. I get in the game. I'll get like 7 or 8 plays. That's it. First quarter, halfway through, Bavaro goes down. I'm like, okay. So, well, you need to play the backup tight end. I'm like, okay, well, Zeke plays this. I got it. I can play the backup tight. I know all the plays. I got him. Then 2 plays later, Zeke goes down. Okay, now you're the starting tight end. You know all the plays, right? I'm like, yeah, I know all the plays. And you just have to play. And that's just,
Howard,
it's just different.
If we had you and Zeke Moat and Mark Bavaro, things would be very different.
Yeah, we wouldn't be throwing the ball all over the field.
If ifs and buts were candy and nuts, every day would be Christmas.
Yeah. Anyway, great job, guys. Love the Giants. I'll be rooting for them Sunday, no matter what.
Exactly.
Thanks so much for the call, John. Appreciate you. John in Staten Island. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
He believes in Daniel. He wants Daniel to succeed, and he's like trying to figure out what the issue is with the team and where they feel like their issues are. I don't think the team has like the issues like everybody thinks they have. I think that they just need to, try to close the talent gap year in and year out. And and unfortunately, at this point in the season, we're talking about talent gap.
Well, and you look at last season, too. At the end of last year, that was the very first thing Joe Shane said at the postseason press conference. The general manager saying we need to close the talent gap, especially in the division, because as good of a season as the Giants had, going to the playoffs, winning a playoff game, they still just won one game in the division. Yeah. And that's where you get your bread buttered. Yeah. And so if the Giants, they've matched that already this year. They beat Washington in Week 7, one game in the division. That's where you really need to prioritize closing the talent gap. The rest of the stuff will kind of take care of itself if that happens. Yeah.
But that's a big gap between Giants and Eagles, Giants and maybe Cowboys. Like, if everybody's healthy, we have to take a real look at it. But if everybody's not healthy, interesting. And that's what we've been looking at.
Absolutely. And of course, there's a lot of injuries that we'll continue to monitor this week as we head into the Week 11 matchup with Washington in Washington. Yep. A lot of significant ones to keep our eyes on. Is there one that stands out to you that's most important, imperative?
I think that if Schmitz and Bredesen and Pugh have a good game, it will help everybody else have a really good game.
Okay.
I think if those three guys in the interior line can find a way to keep those guys off the run game, to keep them off the quarterback a little bit, I think that will pick up and make a big difference. I'm also interested to see if Cager and Bellinger can have a bigger role, in the passing game, because a young quarterback needs people closer to him to get involved. Yeah. And those guys will be the closest two guys to him.
Get some of those short yardage plays going, get some yards after the catch going, all that good stuff. And especially, the Commanders, that after getting rid of Chase Young and Montez Sweat at the trade deadline, they've fallen to 31st in points, 29th in yards allowed, at least 29 points, and 374 yards given up in 2 of the last 3 games.
That's all great, but we don't score a lot of points.
Right. So if there is a game, in which that this is within the realm of possibility.
Can we pull 2 halves of the Arizona game out? The second half, two second halves of the Arizona game.
You're trying to get him to go for 60?
I'm trying to get him to go for 60. I'd take it. I would take it for one game.
Don't have no in your heart. Anything is possible
so
here.
Saying there's a chance.
What was all that 1 in a million talk, eh? All right. Well, that's been our show today, ladies and gents. Appreciate you all tuning in, listening to us. For Howard Cross, I'm Madeline Burke.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Big Blue Kickoff Live, which is part of the Giants podcast platform everywhere, giants.com/podcast. Like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think below, and we'll see you next time.